Hi, my name's Kelsey Butkus. I'm going to build a guitar. Let's do it. Welcome back to the second video in my series for the Great Guitar Build-Off 2021 featuring the Sharxplorer. I'm Kelsey and let's get into the build. Alright, first I need to establish a center line on the guitar body. I'm just getting ready to joint the maple burl top, and I want to be able to line that up with the body in the middle so that eventually the joint between the two pieces of the top becomes the center line. The line I'm drawing now is somewhat arbitrary. I'm going to drill new pins for the bridge posts, and the neck pocket's not even routed yet, so it's kind of up to me. I'm basing it mostly off of the bridge pickup cavity because I want to keep that in more or less the same position. Just indicating where that pickup cavity is going to be on the top as well. I want to put a screw into that in order to keep the two sides together while I joint them. So I just want to make sure that when I eventually route it out, it's going to be gone. Drilling holes to put screws in. I'm doing this to keep the two pieces together while they are being sanded down. You can see I just have these little 3/4 inch screws or so, and they should keep the two pieces together. Clamp it down and get on with the sanding. I tried with a plane as well, and it didn't really work. The maple burl is basically like all end grain, and it's hard unless you've got a really good plane. At least I found it difficult to get it going. Was using the shorter leveling beam, and then I ended up going with this longer one because it honestly worked better. I know that they may not always be perfectly flat, but simply the length seemed to work a lot better for me. Just put some little lines on the sides of these and keep sanding and sanding and sanding and sanding until all the lines are gone. And eventually you'll have what will become a reasonable joint. To glue it up, I put a couple of clamps on the table there. You can see them just barely on the outside of both of these pieces. I got a bit of a square dowel underneath in the middle. Put some glue on it, put it there, wax paper underneath so the glue doesn't get on the table, and then take it out and push it down. That creates just a little bit of clamping pressure, which I then wipe off, and that's just about it. I also put wax paper down and a piece of flat plywood on top, which I clamp down and then put some extra weight on in order to make sure that the top stays more or less flat. If there's slight imperfections, well, I'll be able to sand them out. And after letting the glue dry overnight, let's reveal this guitar top. It's pretty nice. There are maybe a couple small spots in the joint that show the glue, but overall I'm pretty happy with it. Now I need to draw an outline of the guitar body for the top. Doing my best to line up the joint line again with the center line I've done on my body, because eventually that's where I want it to be. Pull saw makes quick work of these dowels that are still a little bit proud of the surface. I'm gonna just chisel away a little bit of this pickup block too. This is to cut off a little bit in order to make a second book match for the tiny corner of the body that sticks out too far. I just cut off the other side because it will be book matched to the part I want. This just demonstrates that. That's just for the extra little point. This is my setup for cutting things with the jigsaw generally. I have a piece of plywood, I weigh it down, and then I can clamp the work to that, and I don't have to worry about what's underneath the work. Here I am really rough cutting out the shape of the body on the guitar top. This takes a few different cuts. I move it around, I change it up. Basically I use this jigsaw in place of a bandsaw because I don't have one. I do have a couple reference lines here. I'm using the super glue and masking tape trick to just line up the book match exactly where I want it. You can just barely see a couple little pencil lines there on both the top and bottom. Back to sanding. Same thing basically, although it's a lot quicker when the pieces have a lot less surface area. Pry off the masking tape, super glue That works so well. This is how I'm clamping it too. Just a couple pieces of tape. Basically, if you've got a good joint, tape should be enough. There's some elasticity to masking tape, so it's enough to keep a joint tight. And again, glue it overnight. And a bit more sanding on the body just to level off this pickup block and these dowels. Reveal this extra book match, and it's looking pretty nice just for that little corner. Just want to draw a bit more of a firm outline of where the guitar body is going to end up being on the guitar top, or vice versa. Also, this neck pocket is a little too wide, so I'm just going to glue in a few shims on each side out of maple veneer just to tighten it up a bit, and then I'll be able to route it to the exact specific size. There I am, just drawing roughly where I think the neck pocket's going to be, and the neck pickup as well. And a whole bunch more sanding, this time with a leveling beam in order to try to get this guitar body completely flat on top to make for a nice joint with the guitar top when I finally glue it on. I cut a little close to the lines, to the outline on this top. Eventually I'm going to route it flush against the body, but I want the router to do as little work as possible when I get to it. Cut out a little notch for the neck pocket too. I'm going to redo the output jack here. This was a design choice that is based off Jay's preference. He doesn't like the output jack on the side or the edge of the guitar. He prefers it to be flat and flush on the top. So in order to do that, I'm going to put it in basically the same position, but rotate it 90 degrees so it's on the top instead of the side. I'm going to plug the side with a little bit more of the maple burl top material. That should stretch over the side nicely and look good too. Just cleaning it up here at a couple little walls I built just for a flush trim bit router, and yeah, just clean this up a little bit more. This router was a gift from my girlfriend. Thank you very much, Purvi. This project would not be possible without it, so I really appreciate that. Next, I just need to cut out a little bit more of this maple burl to fill that hole. Just make a couple square cuts with the pull saw and end up with this little square of maple that's going to fit just perfectly in there. Bingo. Also, before I glue the top on, I want to route out these control passages for the wires. One to go from the neck pickup to the bridge pickup, and then one to just clean up and go from the bridge pickup through. Some holes were already drilled, but this is just to make sure that they're wide enough and deep enough. My camera quit on me when I was actually gluing it in, but here's me just getting ready. It's all glued in now, as you can see. I'm just gonna plane it flush with this little hand plane. Just makes pretty quick work of it, and then just a little bit of sanding there to even it out. All right, now the fun stuff. Just lining up the hole I want to carve for the shark. I basically have two identical images, one that I'm going to line up on the body, and then one that I'm going to line up on the top, just so they're in the exact same spot. I was just pretty careful when measuring them to try to figure it out. Here I am sanding down the top as well. The astute among you will notice that this is actually the underside of the guitar top. I need it to be perfectly flat to have a nice joint with the body. It was raining that day, so I had to bring it under the deck above me and not be out in the open. Just finalizing the position for the battery case. I'm gonna have to route out a pocket here, and then eventually I'll make a hole between where the shark is and the battery on the back for the wires to transfer through. Just drilling out ahead of time before I route it so that the router has a little less work to do. Obviously, that's a good idea if you especially have a battery powered router like this. Slow and steady, just a couple millimeters at a time, and just keep going over it, and eventually I can take the fence off and the router bit will run right along the edge of the hole. Done. And through the magic of movies, bang, it's done. Look at that. So the battery's going to fit in here. I think I try to test fit it here and decide that, you know what, that's going to work. And next I'll clear out some of the material for this shark hole I'm going to make. This is on the body, so I'm just going to clear out most of this material. Slowly drill it away with the drill here. The important part here is not really the shape so much, but the important part is that I leave a post in the middle. That white part in the center you see is going to be a post that sticks up and ends up supporting part of the guitar top that otherwise would be very, very fragile. Just a little bit at a time with the router here. I just do it by hand, nice and slow along the outside, and try to get a nice shape that's going to cover what I need it to, all the while leaving that post in the middle untouched. Eventually, once it gets deep enough, the flush trim bit can go around the outside and makes the whole thing a lot easier. As you can see, the post in the middle there too. I should point out as well, I glued a little piece of wood inside the bridge pickup cavity pocket you can see. That'll come up in a moment when I want to screw the top on to index it. A little fuzzy this one, sorry about that. We're going to now route out the cavity for the battery case cover. So the battery's going to sit deep, and then it'll have a maple burl cover for it over top. This is just going to look nice and make sure the battery case doesn't slip out. I'm trying to leave a little window on it though, so you can access the on-off switch on the battery case fairly easily. After I route it to the right depth, I'm just going to clean up these rounded corners with a chisel and square them off nice. Now to make a couple index pins for gluing up the guitar top. I just make sure the top and the body are lined up on the center line, drill through, and screw in a couple indexing pins. 6, Ellie. Next, I just got to make a cover for the battery case and then a cover for the control cavity. These are both going to be made out of the maple burl as well. The control cover, I just trace out the old one, cut it out, but I got to measure and cut the battery cover one because it's a little more bespoke. Cut these out with the pull saw, and then I can clean them up later with files and sandpaper. Here's that sandpaper, just on a sanding block, slowly round over the corners on the control cover and fit it into the body. One last thing for this video, I just need to figure out how to inlay this sword onto the guitar body, so I'm just tracing around it now. Every captain needs a naval officer's blade, don't they?